hi, welcome. It was a pleasure having you in Belgrade for a residency. Maybe it's better if you introduce yourself so I don't say your name wrong.
Yeah, these long Greek names. Hello, my name is Alexandra Papademetriou. I'm an artist from Athens. I'm currently living in Sweden, in Gothenburg, and this is how I came here to the residency with this exchange between Gothenburg and Belgrade. And that's the short story of my life.
Yes, great. So, and here we will attach later the photos and the video of the exhibition. This is a project you would be working while you were here, but actually you started it before that.
It's, I would say, it's this that the project I'm presenting here is part of, it's connected to a larger project that I have been working on before. But what we see here is brand new. Like I made everything during the residency while I was here. It's a project, or rather, perhaps it's good to start with how I got into it, or maybe not.
Yes.
It's a project about the Balkans. It's a project about how there are actually many more things that bring us together than separate us. And that a lot of the divisions are actually completely artificial. And I started this, I started being interested in this subject in 2018, about, because like I said, I'm from Greece, and that was the year when there was these massive protests about the name of North Macedonia, and like not lots of nationalism coming forward. And it was also the year I moved away from Greece and I moved to Sweden. And I was in a position where I had lots of questions, I suppose, about my identity and my place in Europe, in the world, etc. And I'm also, perhaps it's also important to say that I'm half Greek, half English. So I was never 100% Greek. I never empathized. I never fully like embodied Greekness, I suppose. So I have this weird relationship to my national identity, and this project comes from that, from this itch, I suppose. I don't know how else to describe it. It's an itch. It's something is not right, and I have to figure it out. Or from the reverse side, I feel like something is here that is not being talked about and unpacked, and I want to talk about it.
Yeah, so this is bringing my next question, and it's actually related. How you feel that your cultural background is influencing your art?
A lot. I think both as someone who, because I am in a particular position. I am both Greek, like in Sweden I am Greek, absolutely Greek, but in Greece I am not Greek. I am something else. Like people ask me where I'm from quite often. It's like I was born here. Sorry. So it's this is how it's influencing it. It's this bizarre position from which, I mean, I am also talking about the Balkans, and Greece is officially part of the Balkans. There is a lot of common history, but it has also been kind of on the side, and also has the privileges of being part of Europe. So it's this positioning between privilege and non-privilege, I suppose, and like this very particular culture and history of Athens specifically, rather than like the north of Greece, for example, which is, the north of Greece is a bit closer culturally, historically to the rest of the Balkans, and Athens is kind of like, we have the Parthenon, you know, we are above everyone else. So yeah, it's my background has influenced my work in that it has brought a set of problematics that I need to unpack and untangle.
Yeah. And then now when you're living abroad, like, does it make it more complicated?
It does, because when you're living abroad, I mean, I think that this happens to maybe not everyone, but a lot of people. You really attach somehow to your previous nationality. Like, of course, it doesn't help that, you know, I have to speak English on that. I really feel this, and I think a lot of people who have moved away have this tendency. When you move to a different country, you are very aware suddenly of the country from which you come from, in a way that you were not before. So like when I speak English, and I have to speak English all the time, I am very aware of my strong Greek accent. And I am also very aware of like, I have of course picked up ways of talking or of solving problems, etc., from being in Greece, which do not exist in other countries. So I somehow fall into playing this role, or sometimes almost a caricature of a Greek person. And I think that this is also something that has influenced, or that is a thought with me throughout this project. This kind of this walking the line between a caricature and an earnest representation of an identity, and sort of these things kind of blend sometimes. If that makes sense.
And then what about like generally the themes, like your art? So what are the things what inspires you? What kind of themes? Is it always connected to national identity or how would you describe it?
I think I only realized this very recently, that I think the running theme throughout my works since I was a bachelor student even has been institutional critique in one way or another. So there is like this project and like this larger body of works around the Balkans has been very influenced by, or sort of it's critiquing the structures of bureaucracy, and of like very art that is institutionalized for the state, kind of. Also, I suppose because that is what I see a lot in Sweden. Art is like this is like the good side and the bad side. There's lots of public money for art, but then of course art becomes very heavily bureaucratized. So this has sort of emerged from that. Whereas before, when I was living in Greece, my works were criticizing the art academy, I would say, because in Greece there's a very rigid. I know it's similar in Belgrade. You have to like practice a very specific way of drawing again and again and again, and this is like, and it's based in like, in Greece it's based of course on classical Greek sculptures from classical Athens, and it's tied also of course to national consciousness, I suppose, and a sort of propaganda that seeps into every facet of a cultural production. And I was critical towards that, so I was painting in a way that goes sort of against every single one of these rules, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So would you say that this answered the question, like what is your work aim to say, or would you add something more? It's kind of like I had some questions prepared, but it seems like this conversation is going very fluently, so I don't even need to ask you questions. But I mean, if you would like to add something maybe, or maybe also like mention how do you feel like what's your goal as an artist?
Yeah, that's good. And that can also tie very well into what I'm trying to say. I think that I personally, as an artist, am because of my personality as well, right, and my background and my particular talents, or in other areas weaknesses, I think that my role as an artist is to be someone who is perhaps more engaged in a political, philosophical side of what we are doing, and tries to start a discussion about things that we usually do not talk about. And that is my ambition here as well. Like, I mean, I'm trying to use something that is a bit, I hope it's a bit funny, I hope it's a bit weird, and I'm trying to use it as a hook to talk about, okay, like we have all of these arguments about monuments, like there's the new monument by on the railway station here in Belgrade. I mentioned earlier, like the fight in inverted commas between North Macedonia and Greece, and like who owns the image of Alexander the Great. And in North Macedonia there's in the central square there's a massive monument of someone who looks like Alexander the Great very much, but for like copyright reasons they have named him warrior on a horse. But of course this is, they're saying that he is ours, and Greek people are, that is why Greek people are so angry at the name of Macedonia, because they're like, no, all of this history is actually ours. And this is the sort of tension that I'm trying to talk about in this very weird way, because I mean, this is about this, and it's also about this very bizarre plastic Bob Marley in Banatski, Sokolac, in the north of Serbia, and that, which is a monument also to like peace and unity, but it's kind of, forgive me for saying this, it's kind of kitsch, it's kind of clumsy, it's kind of naive, and maybe this brings me to my other point of what I think an artist should do.
Yes, please. What do you think? What would be like the role of the artist in a society?
I think that as artists we are also very privileged, and we are able to put forth an like I mean all sorts of artists were able to put forth an idea, but to sort of preserve the humanity, our humanity in relation to that idea. And I mean in the sense that I can believe something, and logically I know it to be true, but I have emotions that are pulling me in a different direction. This is also what is happening here. There is a sort of like of course these monuments are ridiculous, and I mean all of them, and maybe a waste of money, but then also thinking, but yeah, this one maybe I kind of like, and wouldn't it be nice to have something that is a bit funny in public spaces and etc. So these are two contradicting views that I believe in both of them, and I think that this is what us humans are like, and this is what art is about. Art is about exploring the contradictions in human psyche and human thought, and I think that as artists we are able to bring that into a broader discussion in a way that a politician or a scientist would not be able to.
Yeah. So do you think did it influence your opinion, like that you were studying in Sweden, and we were talking once before, and like this critical thinking ideas, like I think like in every country is different. So I think, do you think that influenced your opinion, or like how you were developing as an artist?
I think that what happened during my education in Sweden is that I got pushed and tested a lot. I got poked and I got questioned, etc. And in the end, I have more solid foundations in the things that I believed in before. Because, for example, I would say that the Swedish, especially in Gothenburg, the Gothenburg art culture is very research-based. It's much more theoretical, and it has much more of a critical distance to what is actually being talked about. So I am saying, yes, read, have research, have this critical distance, but also have space for your actual humanity. Because otherwise a sociologist or any other kind of scientist could do the same job but better, let's be honest.
Yeah, and what do you think, like speaking of Sweden, for example, I think like it's an interesting question if we can help each other as an artist, if we mention these important questions, how the artists in different countries are seeking opportunities like for developing their art careers. I think, for example, my impression was that in Sweden there is more opportunities to apply for grants and things like that. For example, we don't have a lot of money for culture here, so that's not really working that way, but how would you describe how it works there? Or
I mean, I have to say that also coming from Athens, there is no cent. There is very little money, or the money that there is kind of new, I suppose. It's new private donors, and it's like incredible competition. In Sweden, there is more money. There is still competition, of course, but you have better chances because there is just more money to go around. But also specifically the kind of art that I make fits more in the category of artistic research, I suppose. So the grants that I am applying for and like the direction that I'm going into is that. Unless, galleries or art fairs or anything like that, like the things that I make require like patience to read the text usually, and it's not something that you would necessarily have on your living room wall. And that particular, if you can say, flavor of art is fairly well supported in Sweden. Yes.
I mean, how do you feel, like what other challenges as an artist you're facing? I mean, usually it's the challenge of money, like searching for grants, and this is a good thing. There is opportunities for
Yeah.
grants. And then, how do you feel like you would continue developing your art career in the future? Would you consider staying in Sweden, or are you planning to be like a researcher, or are you maybe thinking about selling any of your art? Or like just general questions.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting like a clear
plan.
answer, like a plan.
Yeah, 5-year plan.
Yeah,
yes,
but I'm just thinking in a way that like if we discuss these things, maybe like artists will gain insights how things work in different parts of the world, and maybe this can help some young artist, or
I consider that I'm a young artist myself, so I'm still writing and sending a lot of applications. That is like the most of my job as an artist is looking for things to apply to and writing applications, and it takes patience, but it does eventually work. Like I think for like 5 or 6 months, like the second half of 2020, when I was like, I had graduated and I was trying to find stuff, I got only rejections, and then suddenly in 2021 I got a lot of acceptances. So it's about, let's be honest, to be an artist you do have to be at least somewhat privileged. You need to have someone to help you out while you're getting just only rejections. So you cannot like lie about that, pretend it doesn't exist. But yes, my plan is to stay in Sweden because it's I miss Athens very much, but Sweden is a very tidy, orderly place to live. Everything just everything is boring, but everything works. Maybe that is why it's boring, because everything just works.
But everything is so beautiful also.
I find Belgrade to be more beautiful than Gothenburg, for example. It's more interesting. Like I'm just looking outside now through this window, and there's like so many things to look at, and there's like people, and you are you hear your neighbors, you hear their laughter, you hear when they party, you hear like the children playing. It's more human. Of course you hear it when they have arguments and stuff, but that is part of life, and you feel like you are part of life in a place like this. And all of the buildings and the graffiti and the posters, and like it's a patchwork of everyone's experiences. And like Sweden is just like, here is the housing district, here is the shopping district. It's just very too clean. It's inhumanly clean. So. But of course the ideal would be to spend half of your year in a very organized country, and then the other half in a country that you actually like.
It's very helpful if you want to like pursue something or to work. Yes, so this brings me to my last question. How did you like your time in Belgrade and during the residency?
I really liked it. It was a good opportunity for me to like restart a little bit, because like the past few years, with the pandemic as well, I've just been, but before that with the master I was just like home writing. It was mostly writing. It was lots of administrative work for various projects, and not so much making things or actually setting up an exhibition. And here it's like, okay, you're here, you get to explore this place that has lots of things to explore, and you get to make something, and you get to like set up an exhibition, and everything happens quite fast.
Yes.
And it's like it's like there was a blockage somewhere, and this was like a strong like kick to get the blockage out and to get things moving again. And I really enjoyed that.
Amazing. Thank you so much. It was really a pleasure having you here.
Thank you.
I hope we'll see each other in the future.
I think we will.
Yes.
Thank you for having me in Belgrade and in the residency.
Yes, thanks.
Mm.